And if you try something in order, like we got like telling it like highest to lowest horsepower. We had that one. We also had calories in food. We also had reality TV shows from oldest to newest. But I feel like it's kind of a fun thing to do with friends. Something like that. I don't think I'll go. I was gonna go Spirit or Halloween, but I think I'm gonna go back home and sleep. Yeah, but I mean, like I can't tell them to go into like an hour, but it's like I know this shit. No, I go tomorrow. So it's fine. Why is it? I just covered it.
The speakers work. All right. Desire, are you able to hear us all right? Over Zoom. Let's give like a thumbs up or something if you can. Cool. All right, without further ado, slight delay, but who cares? Welcome. It's week 5 already. Why? I'm talking about resumes and portfolios, cover letters, and junk today because that's really important. This is honestly one of the like more important workshops that writing puts on because it's not just applicable to writing. Like 85 to 90% of the stuff I'm going to be talking about is really applicable to any department. So yeah. So first off, I'm going to be talking about portfolios. Arguably, that's like the most important thing when it comes to like getting a job in game dev stuff or internship. Here are the reasons why you should make a writing portfolio. You want to be a writer. If you want to get hired by game studios, you need a portfolio. Duh. Especially if you're working in games, not just in like film or TV or whatever. It's just a really nice way. It's a portfolio. It's an easy to like flip through, look through of all the stuff that you've worked on over the years, 4 months. It's also just nice to be motivational, like, hey, look at all this stuff that I've made over the years. That's pretty cool. So it's just kind of nice to look back on sometimes and admire, I guess. And it's also just a good way of doing some quick networking. Like if you just want to like show someone that you met at like a game conference or just walking around campus and you want to be like, hey, look at the stuff I've made. You can just send them your portfolio link and they can flip through it at their leisure. So when do you make a writing portfolio? Now. Oh, wait a minute. I haven't made any real games yet. Just like games, I don't care. Make it now. Oh, I'm not applying to like internships or stuff yet. I'm still working on like developing my skills. And now, I'm not letting you leave this room until I see that you have started making a portfolio. I am not kidding about that. I will block the door of my body. Right? Now, let's talk about the basics. So unless you are also trying to get like web dev stuff, like you also want to do like custom HTML, CSS coding for like a site or something, or like some weird ARG thing, you don't need to like make your own website from like absolute scratch and have to deal with like domain hosting and whatnot. Just use a website builder. Honestly, recruiters, interviewers and stuff, they do not care what you use as long as they just can access it easily without having to go through like some loopholes and doesn't crash on them. They don't care if you use anything super fancy or basic bitch free. Talking about free, let's talk about the free options. I use Wix. I really like Wix. It's easy to use. There's a lot of good customization even for the free version. It looks really nice. They have really good templates that you can make your portfolio with, because if you're like me and have no idea how UI works, they kind of just make it look fancy for you. Google Sites is another good one. I know that Jen, the previous writing director, used Google Sites, and I know another writing officer, Dane, also used Google Sites. Similar to Wix, it's just a nice free tool that has some templates that you can work on, and it's pretty easy to use. There's also Weebly. I've used Weebly in the past. I'm not as big a fan of it. It feels more like, I don't know, plasticky is the right word. They don't have a ton of like really good looking options, but again, it is free and it's experience that kind of thing. It works. Then there's also paid options. Again, recruiters and interviewers and stuff, they don't care if you have like a custom URL or like you don't have any like, hey, apply to Wix now banners or whatever. They don't care. So you can splurge for the paid options and do the annual plan or whatever. That is up to you. Squarespace is like the primo one. There's also Workspace, but Workspace is just really old and not that good looking. I've used Squarespace in the past before for like some school stuff. It's nice. It has a lot of customization, a lot of really good embed options, but it's also expensive because it's premium. So y'all probably remember what the USI triangle is, right? What does the U stand for?
Useful.
Useful. What does the S stand for?
Short.
What does the I stand for?
Interesting.
There you go. I forgot to animate those, so that kind of ruined the surprise, but you know what? I made this at 2 a.m. USI triangle is not just useful for dialogue, it's also really good for keeping in mind when you're making your portfolio, your resume, your cover letter, all that good stuff, because recruiters are not going to take a lot of time to look through all your stuff. So let's talk about specific qualities of what makes a good portfolio. When you're talking about your project experience on your portfolio, it's important to say specifically, like in intricate detail, what your role was and what you did. Don't just say writer, say script writer, dialogue writer, screenplay writer. All right. And you want to say specifically what you did. You don't just say, oh, I wrote for this game. No. If something was a solo project, say like a project for a class, or like maybe you did a game jam by yourself, specify that it was a solo project. All right. So let's take a look at an example. Take a look at this for a portfolio. I was the narrative designer for this game. And it just stops there. No more elaboration. Just I was the narrative writer for this game. No. Versus I wrote the world doc, the character bios for these 3 characters, the screenplay for this act. And here's like an embed of the screenplay that I wrote. That is going to be so much better than just saying I did narrative design. Well, no. Another thing is convenience. This is a really good example of good versus bad, just convenience on your portfolio sites. It's specifically talking about like graphic design, like people, but it's also just applicable for basic portfolio design as well. So I put it on there. Keep in mind that recruiters are going to take less than 4 minutes to look through your portfolio. I was being generous with less than 4 minutes. Most will take less than 90 seconds to look through all your portfolio before deciding, okay, I'll contact this guy and give him a call back, or saying, no, I'm not interested. They are actively looking for a reason to stop looking at your portfolio and move on to someone else, because they have to go through several dozen portfolios in one day, multiple days a week. They get very bored with it and are looking for an out to get done with their job faster because they have so many more to look through. If they're a good company and don't use like AI scanners for the things, right? If you can make a web build of your game, if possible, like you're using built-in render pipeline and you don't have any like super fancy post-processing and it can run easily on like the HTML build, do that. Because if you had to download your project, especially if it's over like a couple hundred megabytes, I'm not downloading that. Like, cool that you made a game. I'm not going to play it unless I can very easily do so, like through my browser when I'm looking through your portfolio already. I'm not going to download, unzip, play the exe, run the, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say no. Embed as much as possible. You have an itch.io link, embed that onto your portfolio. If you have a screenplay that you wrote, embed that onto your portfolio. The less links I have to click to get to other things or things that I have to download, the better. All right. 20 games are really great for this because they natively run in HTML very easily, and it's just super easy to use, and itch.io likes running 20 games. So that's great. And it's a good way of showing your writing. If you have any screenshots or like gameplay videos that you play in your game of like different stages, like this was the alpha build, this was like the gold master, that's great. If you have a trailer for your game, like you had the budget to do that, put that in there. That is very impressive. Essentially, just keep things logical. Like, don't be all over the place with where you're putting stuff and how it's flowing. It also helps to be updated with your portfolio. If you haven't touched your portfolio in like over a couple of months, you should probably go back and just make sure everything's up to date. So include not only your best work, but your most recent. Quality is much better than quantity. Like, I will be much more interested in the person who has only 3 games on their portfolio, but they're really highly polished. They talk about all their experiences very well versus the guy who made like 10 game jam games that all were pretty broken and there wasn't a lot to do with them. Okay. So high school doesn't matter. If you're like a freshman, this is a little bit more, okay, that's not exactly true because in your case, high school was very recent. So if you have anything in high school, sure, you could put it on portfolio, but like starting like halfway through sophomore year, start taking off high school stuff off your portfolio. Like, cool that you made this in high school, but I'm not interested in high school. I'm talking about what you did during college and after college. I don't care what you did in high school. Again, less than 4 minutes, really less than 90 seconds to make an impression and make sure that the interviewer wants to actually interview you. So keep everything concise. Fewer words is better. And use keywords. Like there's a bunch of like sites on there like saying top 10 keywords to put on your portfolio for game dev jobs or narrative design or writing, blah, blah, blah. Put some of those in your portfolio because that'll catch recruiters' eyes. Here's another example. So I'm talking about an experience I had working on a game project, and I took 3 full-on like 5-sentence paragraphs just to explain everything that I did on the project. I'm not going to look through an essay just to understand what you did. Versus if you had just a couple of bullet points that say the exact same thing, but concisely, then I'm much more interested and can very quickly understand, hey, this is what this person did. Right? So writing isn't always visible, especially with our stuff. Sometimes when we're writing for like a quarter-long project, maybe by the time that like December rolls around, you didn't have time to implement your writing, or not all the writing that you made it into the final product, or maybe a lot of like the writing and like narrative design stuff you did was behind the scenes, like making relationship maps and beat charts and all that stuff. That's not really readily visible in the game itself, but that means you can still put it in your portfolio. This also includes like if you made a game for like a game jam or something and the build never actually worked, if it's still like a buggy mess, you can still include the writing and screenplay that you made for that game, because I'm not interested in like playing a game and seeing how the like level design stuff is. No, I'm interested in your writing. So put in your writing on your portfolio. And a couple of creative ways to show off your writing. If you made like little character quips or barks, that's kind of like the stuff that the player characters shout during combat. Like enemies here, or like in Overwatch, like the ultimate voice lines. Those are examples of like quips and marks that you can put in. If you made some of those, put those in your portfolio. And if you have any character world docs and you make them very short and very concise, put those in too. So an example of this, let's see, this was June or July 2020 or somewhere in 20, I don't remember exactly. I was really addicted to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I have over 300 hours in that game. My island actively lags my Switch because of the amount of stuff that I have around my island. I was very sad that Nintendo dropped support for this game so early because they wanted to splurge more on their Pocket Camp cash grab. I didn't like that. I wanted to talk to my villagers more, but they kept repeating the same lines over and over. So what did I do? I made my own character dialogue for the villagers. I made it like, here are what lazy villagers say. These are what like the sassy villagers say. And I made just a bunch of like quip sheets for those. Did I actually make it into like an Animal Crossing New Horizons clone? No. Did I make like a weird generator or like make fake screenshots like this to show my dialogue? No. But I have the sheets and they were on my portfolio for a time because I liked the writing that I did for it. And I felt like it fit in pretty well with how the Animal Crossing New Horizons dialogue actually was. So That's an example of something that you can include, even if it didn't actually make it into some big game product at the end. So a little side note about writing samples, depending on where you apply, especially if it's like a bigger narrative heavy studio like SMS or Naughty Dog, or if you're trying to do like film, like you're trying to do like Warner Bros. Or Warner Bros. Game, they may require that you have a writing sample to show. It just sounds like how it is, like an example of like your best writing works. Doesn't have to be one unified thing. You could pick and choose from a bunch of different things, honestly, just by context. You don't need to have this on your portfolio per se, but just have it somewhere that you can submit easily, right? Typically, because the people who are going to be asking for writing samples are going to be narrative heavy, like game studios, they'll prefer it to be in screenplay format because they probably make a lot of movie games like SMS. Does everyone know what SMS is? Santa Monica Studios, right? Okay. Yeah, keep this to more, like no more than 2 pages, ideally 1 page if you can manage it. Like don't be super long with it. Yeah. Since you're playing for like game positions, it's important to include like stuff that happens in the game. So like if you're writing samples, a cutscene that you made, put in like pieces of like callouts that say like, okay, at this point the player has to walk over to this NPC to continue the cutscene, or like they have to get into like a gunfight, stuff like that. Put that into your screenplay. That is useful. Another little side note about portfolio specialization. So say I really want to work for Arcane, right? People who made Dishonored and Deathloop. So if I am really trying to apply to Arcane, and that is like the #1 place that I want to go to, I want to work for something like Arcane or ZeniMax Studio game, right? You can try to tailor your portfolio specifically to said studio. Now, the reason this is a little bit tricky is because you're focusing your entire portfolio on one thing. And your portfolio is supposed to show like all of your work, or at least your best work. So that can be a little bit tricky, but if you're really committed to being like, this is the studio or studios that I'm trying to apply to, go for it, sure. So in that case, you'll want to highlight the work that you've done that best fits what a studio has done in the past and what they currently need for their new projects, right? This is a lot easier to do with resumes, which I'm going to talk about right after this. So let's take a little example. Now, I have 2 examples of writing, right? Say I did some writing for like a Wild West themed RPG dialogue with branching storylines. And I also did one about Dungeon Quest design. It had a lot of fantasy gothic tones. It did like a character bark sheet. I made like this fancy arcane lore, and like I had the concept artist like draw what like manuscripts would look like. Now, if I was applying to specifically Rockstar, people who made Red Dead, which of these 2 would I want to emphasize on my portfolio if I'm applying to Rockstar?
The first one.
The first one, because they made Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2. So if they're thinking about making a 3rd one or like some DLC, I have experience making Red Dead Redemption style writing. Now, if I instead wanted to go work with Blizzard on Diablo 4, which of the 2 would I choose? I would choose the second one because that is specifically stuff that they do in Diablo 4. Dungeon design, fantasy and gothic. They do arcane stuff. So it's not that one of these is bad per se. It's just better depending on where you apply to. Now, let's talk about resumes. The basics of a resume, don't make it more than 1 page. If I have to flip over to see the rest of your work or like flip to another page, I'm throwing out your resume. I do not care. I'm not looking at more than 1 page for your resume. So the order of emphasis on your resume. First off, at the very top should be your name, very clearly, right? If you have like a particularly hard to pronounce name, it'd be nice if you put in like the phonetic pronunciation. So right under your name should be your project experience, not your education. I don't care what your education is, as long as you have a degree, cool. I don't care besides that. I don't care what your GPA is. I don't care what your specialty was. That doesn't matter. I'm interested in what your experience was working on projects more so than anything else. So put that right underneath your title. I also want to see what you did in terms of like teamwork. Like it's cool that you made a lot of solo games, but if you specifically did a lot of stuff with teams and collaborated with other departments, that's what I really want to see, because that's what you do in actual like game dev stuff is you collaborate. It's not all just Toby Fox, right? And then you put in your education skills, stuff like that. That's at like the bottom. Like I'm more interested in saying what your project experience was and like your experience working with other people more so than what you did in school, because school is just school. I should be able to very easily skim through it and see all the important highlights, right? More so than anything, tying back into project experience, I want to see what you've done hands-on. A lot of studios, before they even look at your very nice and shiny portfolio that you've definitely made at this point, right? They'll look at your resume first. And if you have a crappy resume, I'm not going to go look at your portfolio. So make sure that your resume is also tied up pretty well, because if your resume sucks, I'm not going to go look at the rest of your portfolio, because I'm just going to assume that sucks too if you can't even write a good resume. Yeah. So tailoring your resume to where you're applying is a lot easier than your portfolio, because you could send your portfolio out to several different studios and still work. But for your resume, you can send a very specialized resume to each individual studio or position that you're applying for and emphasize different things. If I'm applying to a software design position with narrative elements to like, I don't know, SMS, I can make a resume specifically for that and emphasize certain keywords that they put in the job description. Versus if I'm trying to apply for like Overwatch 2, I can make a specific Overwatch 2 version of my resume. You have like a base resume that you use for everything. And then for each place that you apply to, you tailor specific things or emphasize certain key words that are really going to attract them, right? It's going to take more work to tailor, yes, but it's a lot more effective. Don't be like me and accidentally, here's an important thing. So if you're tailoring your resume and you put in like the company title and job position on your resume, like narrative designer for Diablo 4 at Blizzard, right? And just make sure that you change that on each of your resumes, because one time I sent a resume to Santa Monica for an internship that said applying for software design position at Fortnite. I still got a call back, but it was very iffy. So just be careful with that. So how do you actually structure your project experience on your resume? Because resumes are just like an 8.5 by 11 page. You don't have a lot of room to do stuff, right? They have to be really concise with how you're writing things. So make sure you have a project header, nice and big and bold, right underneath your name. And then this is just an in general format that I like to use. One of the previous writing directors made this, but I think it's just really useful. Put your title, genre, the role you had in it, and the year. So like in this example, the title was Cats with Hats. What is it? It's a visual novel. What did you do? I was the writer. When did you work on it? Spring 2020. Perfect. That's all I need to know. Then underneath that little like title line, you could just put in 2 to 3 very short, very concise bullet points about what exactly you did. Highlight your keywords, bold, underline. That's all really useful for making it easy for me to skim through your resume and see if I actually like you or not. If you have any hyperlinks to like your itch.io page or like any awards that you won, put those into your resume. Like I'm very, very likely not going to like print out your resume and look at them. I'm going to be looking at it like on the PDF that you sent on the site, right? So that means you can include hyperlinks and stuff and use a little bit of color too. So this is an example from my portfolio. I have the title, I have the time that I worked on it, and I have the role. I didn't put in the genre, I put in the genre in this little blurb that I just put there. And here's my bullet points. I highlighted the specific keywords that I wanted to emphasize on this, right? So here's what you definitely should not be doing on your resume. This I've seen a lot with people that have sent me their resume to like review and blah, blah. Just put in your email and your city. I don't need to know what your like phone number is. Like, I'm not gonna call you and say, hey, I want to do an interview. I'm going to send you an email saying, hey, I liked your stuff. Can we do a call sometime? Here's my number. Can you send me your number? Even at that, not a lot of places do phone interviews anymore. They prefer like Zoom calls or like a Google Meet call. I'm not really going to be needing, like, you're just opening yourself up to like getting spam calls from bots if you put your phone number on your portfolio, because now they have a name tied to your number, right? Also, I don't need your address. I don't know why people keep putting their addresses on their resumes. Don't put your address on your resume. That's just weird. I don't want to know where you live. Just tell me what general city you live in. All right. Same with zip code. Don't give me your zip code. You're just opening yourself up for stalkers. Again, high school doesn't really matter. Exception kind of with a freshman. Besides that, don't put your high school stuff. No accolades from high school. None of that. Month, comma, year. This I got from a Disney exec once. When you're putting your education at the bottom of your resume, just put in like, this is the school I attended to and the year/month I graduate, month, comma, year. June, comma, 2023 for me, right? So if you don't have a lot of experience yet, what you can do is put in like a little like personal section on your resume, right? Just saying like, hey, this is like the stuff I like doing. I'm really passionate about this. These are my favorite games, blah, blah, blah. That can be good. Jen, the former writing director, put that on her resume and she ended up getting an internship with Blizzard. And now she actually works for Blizzard. It's a very risky thing to do because a lot of places might just see that as bloat. And I don't want to look through bloat, right? So unless you make it very, very, very compelling, I would probably skip it, but that's up to you. Yeah, you don't need to make your portfolio look super pretty or like a fancy like graphic design art project. Just make it plain, black and white. Like if you're putting in a lot of color, like it might not look good in black and white. And if they do end up printing it, or you want to make prints to hand out at like game conferences and whatnot, it's not going to look good. And if I can't read your thing easily and skim through it, I'm just going to throw it away. Cover letters. All right. So I get this question where people ask, should I submit a cover letter or not? I would say if you don't know if you should submit a cover letter or not, when in doubt, just make one and submit one because it couldn't hurt. The worst they could do is just not look at it, right? They're not going to dock you points for sending in a cover letter. So I say if you have the time and you're really, really interested in applying to a specific, like you're really wanting to get a specific internship or role or something, put in a cover letter. So allow your personality to shine through. This is different than your resume, your portfolio. This isn't like you showing off like, oh, this is what I've done, blah, 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 blah. This is me. This is for me to get to know you as a person more so than just your work. I want to know who you are and why you should be a part of my company. Focus on about 1 to 2 major practical experiences that you think could contribute to a project. So if I'm applying to like Diablo 4, for example, and I'm writing a cover letter, I could say, okay, well, I made a game jam game where it was like a gothic roguelike. And then from that game jam, I worked on it for another couple months and I eventually published it on itch.io and got a couple dozen downloads. That's really good. That is a good practical experience that you could talk about. And here's what you definitely do not want to put on your cover letter. Don't use like an online template. Yeah, they look okay, but also they've seen every cover letter template known to man. So just don't do like the fancy like graphic design, like Google Docs recommended thing. Just like make a boring cover letter because it's not the looks that's going to intrigue me. It's going to be the content, right? Also, don't make your cover letter more than like a page. Even at that, just make it like 2 paragraphs max. Yeah, and your cover letter should not just be like a portfolio or like a summary of your resume or portfolio because I've looked through those already, all right? I don't want to read through it again. I want to know you. I also put in this little thing about business cards. So when you make a business card, first off, why should you make business cards? Well, Let me grab it. Business cards are super useful for just very quickly like exchanging information or networking with other people. If you're trying to like give them your contact information or wanting to show someone your portfolio, don't want to have to like grab a piece of paper like a napkin, scribble it down. Like that's not gonna, A, it's not gonna look very professional, and B, that's gonna make it even more easy to lose, right? So what I recommend is splurging a little bit more on like the higher quality cardstock. Like I see a lot of people just make their business cards on like basic printer paper and like just in black and white. That works, but like if I get a ton of other business cards and I just keep shoving it into like my coat pocket and then look through them at the end of the day, if yours is all crumbled and stuff from being in my pocket all day, I'm just gonna throw it away and not bother like uncrinkling it, right? But if you use like a higher quality cardstock, not only does it show more like professionality, it's also gonna be able to withstand like the pressures of being in a coat pocket or shoved into the bottom of the backpack while you're walking around GDC. So typically it's better to go for like a matte business card rather than glossy. The reason for that is because it's easier for writing like notes on. So like if I need to like remember something specific about you, like, oh, this person worked on Diablo 3. And I want to write down your business card. If it's glossy, it has that weird sheen on it that makes it very hard to like actually write on, and the pen might get smudged or whatever. But if it's a matte, it's not going to have that weird like coating on it, and so I can very easily just write on. So that's just like a minor thing, but I think it's useful. It's useful to have like a QR code on your business card, like especially if you're using like a free website builder like Wix. Your domain is probably going to be super big. And that's not going to look very good or very easy to type. But if I just scan a QR code, I just immediately go there without having to type anything in. I'm lazy. You also want to include, obviously, your first and last name, phonetic spelling. If you have a hard to pronounce name, put in your email. Ideally, you should have like a business email, like just an email account dedicated just for like applying to places and getting like business related emails, not tied to like your personal email. I don't really want to interview someone whose thing is like pancakelover43@gmail.com. That's just gonna be weird. You also want to talk about what your main or specific role is. So like John Smith, my email address, johnsmithdev@gmail.com, and then software designer or like narrative designer. And you want to keep it minimal. Don't go overboard with all the graphics and whatnot. You can include some graphics. This is where you can actually be more artful, but you don't need to be like super duper fancy or arty. And keep about like 20 or so just with you always, just like keep them in like a little pocket in your backpack or whatever. Because you never know. Maybe we'll have like a riot person here for like an event, or they decided to show up for whatever reason. And just want to give them a business card, chat with them a bit. I recommend this print. This is like the business card company that I go through. They have really good prices. I got like a pack of 250 for like 10-15 bucks, like, and they're pretty good quality. Now, if you really want to be like that guy and be super fancy, you get a Padfolio. This is my Padfolio that I can take with me to like GDC. What do I have in my Padfolio? Well, this is just stuff for my mobile games class. I have a big legal pad that I can write notes on, either at panels that I go to or like people that I talk to, like advice that they get me. I have a pen, very useful to have a pen with you at all times so that people can write down notes or anything. I have business cards. You want to be extremely extra and whatever about your business cards. You also get a fancy business card dispenser, because of course you do. If you're splurging for the Padfolio, you get that. This is my business card. Damn. This is my business card. It's pretty minimal. It just has like a weird circuit board design on it. It says my name, has my email, it has my main roles. I put my phone number on it because if I'm giving someone my business card, I trust them a bit more than just like the internet. So I will actually put my phone number on this, and on the back, I have my name and the QR code to my website. Right. And then I also have just a bunch of resumes printed out that I can give people as well. Right. Now, is this more costly? Yes. Is it super expensive? No, not really. Like you could get a Padfolio at Target, like the 5-star brand one for about, I want to say $15, I think. And then again, for like a pack of 100 business cards from Vistaprint, I think is like less than $10. So in total, you're spending about 20-30 bucks for like a good setup. I say it's worth it because it just shows you're more professional. Are you guaranteed to get a job or internship because of it? No, but you at least look and feel more confident in yourself that you have like all the like professional accoutrement, right? What I want to do in spring is specifically, or not spring, winter, is do a workshop about interviews, but that's for a later time. So the activity for today. Raise your hand if you do not have a portfolio already. No shame.
It's not complete yet.
Okay, that's fine. So if you don't really have a portfolio or it's like very bare bones, I want you to start working on it right now. If you do have a portfolio, however, I want you to start sharing with it. I put it on here where like you put it to like the person to your right and start like exchanging stuff and whatnot. You could just like pair up with people and show it off. That's fine. But the important thing is that you have only 2 minutes to look through this person's portfolio. Because again, that's about as much time as someone recruiting or interviewing for a position is really going to look at a portfolio before saying yes or no. And then once the timer is done, start passing it along again. So these are some questions that you can just think to yourself as you're looking through someone's portfolio. It's just like, is this easy to navigate? Do I understand what this person likes to do? Do I understand what this person did during each of their projects? What studio would this person be good at based on their portfolio right now? So before we do that, I also wanted to show off some examples of good portfolios. So I have, this is the portfolio presentation from last year. So we have portfolio sites from other officers. So this was the previous writing director, Jen. She now works for World of Warcraft on Dragonflight, so you know she did something right. This is her portfolio. So it says her name, says portfolio, good. And then immediately it gets into what she did. She has embedded videos that automatically play for me, right? That's good. It says the name, what it was, a capstone when she worked on it. It doesn't have a role, that's a doc, but who cares? Then she just talks about what she did. Oh, look, a link. What does this take me to? Wow, it takes me to the itch.io of the game. Cool. I have to download this. I'm not going to play it, but hey, I have gameplay right before me. Cool. Oh, here's her title. So she was writer program. I would put this higher up or emphasize it a bit more, but whatever. Yeah, I like that she did like the alternating colors. That makes it very easy to understand like different projects instead of it being all unified. Yeah, I like what she did. I can click on other things. This is her resume. Wow, look at this. I can clearly see her experience. She put her education at the top. I wouldn't do that, but she's the one with the actual game industry job. So I guess she did something right, right? Yeah, and then her skills are at the very bottom because that's the least interesting. I could click on the about me. About me's are nice, just like to understand a little bit more about you, which is cool. This is a little bit long, but you know, it's about you. So you could talk about it a little bit. What happens if I click on LinkedIn? Oh, wow, it takes me to the LinkedIn. Wow, now she's an associate quest designer. Wow, look at her. So we also have my portfolio. Wow. I actually just got my portfolio reviewed by a person who works at Dreamhaven like Monday. So I actually have time to like make it a little bit more fancy. So that's cool. So something I didn't include in the workshop, but I think is still important. The less scrolling that I have to do to look through your portfolio, the better. Like Jen's is really good, but it's a lot of scrolling, right? Like I have to scroll to look through all the stuff she did. What the Dreamhaven person said was it's a lot better to just like have tiles of all the games that you worked on and then just click on each of them. Like, which of these interests me? Oh, this one looks cool. What is this? And then it takes me to the thing. Right? I have embeds for like where you can get the game. I have a trailer video. I have hyperlinks that take you to stuff like, wow, look at this award that we won. Wow, who's Mayhel Magesh? Oh, this is Mayhel Magesh. She was the game director and now she works at Activision. Cool. And so I just go back, look at another thing, like, what's Imposto all about, right? Wow, look at this. Cool. I could click on my name. Wow, this takes me to like the about me and all the other stuff that I've worked on. Cool. Here's my little about me. Cool. What's the see more? Oh, it takes me to the resume. It's the resume, right? So that's cool. We also have some like actual like professional game developer portfolio links that we got. We have the person, what their role was, a little about me to understand more about who Mary is, the different games that she's written on. She worked on Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. She worked on the final part of Walking Dead. She worked on Dying Light 2. Cool. Like, look at all the stuff that she wrote. It's very easy, clean to read. My only, honestly, I can't even really comment because she's like a professional and like has a lot of industry experience. So maybe this is like optimal. But yeah, look at this. She has an image. She put the title. She put the release date. She put the developer. Like very easy to understand all the stuff that she did. What's cool about her is that she actually got like places to review her. So she actually has like professional reviews to put here, nominated for a GLAD award. That's pretty nice. But she could also put in like the stuff that she wrote specifically for each of these games, which is also useful. We also have Lyndon Reed. Did Lyndon come to the thing on Monday? Lyndon Reed?
Who?
Lyndon Reed? No?
No, I think it was someone
Uh,
else.
Well, Lyndon came to something like a couple of years ago and they gave us their portfolio. Yeah, this is just a portfolio guide on how to make a good game dev portfolio, as well as like their actual stuff. They have tutorials about how to start a career. Like they just have like a lot of really cool stuff and like how to make shaders because they're a shader artist. That's cool. Let's see, what else do I have on here? This was a portfolio that I found like a couple weeks ago that is just super stylish. Like I just love the aesthetic of all this. Like it's very easy to skim through. Like it's very clear, like all the stuff that they did, like the stuff that they focused on. It's just very nice, fluid. There's lots of pictures, which is great. It has charts. I like, even though I'm just skimming through all this, I get an understanding of what they did and what they were trying to go for, which is great. And using this little thing on the side, I can just very quickly go back to the top of the page. And now I can keep looking through more stuff. That's great. Look at this. Tiles. Less scrolling, but I can still easily see all the stuff that you did. What's Haberdashers about? I want to see what Haberdashers is about. Wow, look at all this stuff. I want to look at your retrospective. Wow, I could just scroll all the way down. What needs improvement? It's very clearly delineated by the colors, and you have bullet points. This is like A-grade stuff that you should be doing for your portfolio. I'm going to link this into the writing channel because it's just a really, really, really well done portfolio with lots of graphics and good color design. Yeah. It's 1:51 right now, so I know production is it production or art right after us? I forget. Production. Yeah, production is going to start in 9 minutes, so I don't want to impede on their time. So if you haven't written a portfolio, start doing that right now, or I will punch you for legal reasons. That is a joke, kind of. Yeah, any questions?
On VGDC, I saw there was an announcement on the internship fair next, on the 14th, right? Next month.
Oh, the recruiter fair.
Oh, yeah.
What if like, something trying to gain some experience for like past 2 years, but what if you think your portfolio kind of sucks right now?
What part of my portfolio sucks?
Yeah, what if I think my portfolio sucks?
Oh, what if you think your portfolio sucks? Oh, listen, like what year are you?
I'm a third year.
Yeah, your portfolio is gonna suck as a third year.
Right.
Only when you get into like the final years of seniors, it actually gonna start looking good. Who cares, right? Like the fact that you didn't have portfolio automatically puts you into the top 10% of applicants. I didn't mention that. Just having a freaking portfolio puts you automatically to the top 10% of people who apply for game dev jobs. Like 90% of the people who apply for game dev jobs don't even have portfolios. They just submit a resume. You have a portfolio site, you're automatically on my good list. All right. And if you have like a decent portfolio at that, you get in higher, right? So even if you think it sucks, you're already on a very good track, right? So just work on it, get people to look over it, review it. Yeah, like post it on the VGDC Discord or like talk to officers to have them review it and give you some feedback. Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
This is like more of a personal circumstance, but I have an existing portfolio site for like prose writing that I've been doing for like the last like 6 years, probably maintaining. Do you think it's worth it to create a new site, a separate site for specifically video game things?
That is up to you. Like what I do on mine, and if I pull it up, I don't remember where I put my portfolio. Where did I put my portfolio? Yeah, so on my portfolio, you see, I have this writing tab. That's where I put narrative writing. This is stuff that isn't specifically game stuff. Specifically, this is like I did YA novella stuff. I also did like game and film journalism. That's not specific to like games. So I didn't put it as upfront, but it's still on my portfolio site in case they're interested and want to see the other stuff that I've written, right? Like I made this little article about how to make a generic Blumhouse horror movie.
I see.
Or I also put in like, I put in my 3D art portfolio because I felt like it and it shows more of the type of stuff that I want to do. So you can put in your prose writing. If you're trying to apply specifically to like game jobs, I would put that as just like a separate tab, not like the big focal point. Like your homepage should not link to your about page. Your homepage should link to your portfolio and your projects. Like that should be the very first thing I see when I go onto your portfolio.
Yeah, because I just wanted to like separate it because I didn't want to rework the structure of that existing portfolio in order to like adapt this, right?
All right.
Because I already have like an idea of an experience I want a viewer to have for specifically the prose side.
Right. Yeah. So I just put that in like a separate tab.
Okay.
Anything else? Nope. Oh, yes.
What if you have like also film experience and you have some game dev experience, would you want to break into like the game dev industry, your portfolio? Would I include film stuff as well?
If you have film experience, that's what you said, right? Yeah. If you have film experience, again, like the prose writing, I would just kind of put it as like a separate tab on the portfolio. If you're specifically trying to apply to like game specific stuff with your portfolio. If you're applying more to like film stuff with your portfolio, then put that as like the focal point. But if you're applying to like game dev stuff, I would put that as more as like something separate. That'd be my advice. Anyone else? Yes.
Kind of a facetious question, but have you seen American Psycho?
What about it?
You know the business card scene in it?
Oh, yeah, the business card comparison thing.
Do game devs do that?
Oh, with
business
their
cards?
portfolios?
Yeah,
No, not really. They'll do that more with like the games they've worked on, but like, if they do that, they're dude bros anyway. You don't want to work with them, so. Yeah, lesson learned for today. If you meet someone who's like someone from American Psycho, run. I think that's just good life advice. So yeah, anything else? All right. Cool beans. Zoom, stop with that. Thank y'all for showing up.